Welcome in to the crowded booth, everyone. My name is Bryce Koon. That was Ralph Larry. Will Manis is going to be in the background, but we're not going to show him by himself. College football quarterfinals have been completed. We've got all the instant reactions, including what just happened moments ago, as we have seen a little bit and a lot of, I'm glad I'm not paying attention to what's going on, a little bit and a lot of Notre Dame just smacking Georgia around. A lot of fun stuff happening in college football as we get ready for the semifinal, the last four teams next week. We'll talk about it, that and more on tonight's episode of The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Welcome in, everyone, and a fantastic evening for college football, for behind the scenes in the show. Ralph, you good back there?
Mm-hmm. Doing great.
You're right. Doing great. Ralph Larry, Will Manis, and myself. My name is Bryce. Can we welcome you in? Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're watching after the fact, or if you're listening in over the feed. Some awesome numbers with the first 6 months with the Believe podcast networks. We appreciate you there. Keep subscribing and following those feeds wherever you want it. Maxwell wants to know where his hat is.
Yes, it's JK.
Somebody ate it.
Oh.
There they are. Trying to get them shipped out on Saturday. How are you doing? How's everybody doing? College
Good.
football season. Doing well, Ralph? What do we?
Oh, God. Will you restart?
Yeah, you just want to restart it?
Yeah, I
No, I'm
got
just
you.
kidding. All right, but in all seriousness, college football, just a crazy couple of days. But being actually serious, thoughts and prayers out those affected of what happened in New Orleans. Really scary stuff. Glad they were able to, secure a lot of things. And obviously, was talking with some people today who went down to the game, and they said it was like kind of crazy how it was like the most secure they've ever felt going anywhere. Which oftentimes I feel like after something like that happens, there's no safer place in the world to be than that said place because of the heightened security. But in all seriousness, absolutely crazy. Alex, already with a great comment. Maxwell says, Walf and Bryce and Real. That's a tough one because you do start off with a W there. It's Widowy Real. That's good. Well, how are you doing?
It felt like a Monday. Some people have a job.
It did,
Only one
didn't
person
it?
on this podcast has a job, so it felt like a Monday.
True.
It did. It kind of was weird to have. I'll be honest with you. The holidays are.
I don't even know what day it is.
Great. I really didn't know what day it was. The holidays are weird when they put them in the middle of the week. Now, for me and Ralph, it's different. But Will, I guess for you, like it's obviously very weird, just in the sense of literally having. What'd you have off this week? Did you have New Year's Eve off?
I had Tuesday and Wednesday off.
Tuesday and Wednesday off. Oh gosh. So it really did typically feel like a Monday. So make sure you hit that like button if you don't want Will to feel like it's Monday anymore. So keep doing that. Alex says this. Really need to talk about how that first round bye teams all lost. And that's what we're going to kick off tonight with, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to talk a little bit, Ralph, you can put up that first banner. Guys, I know all of us are baseball fans. We've kind of talked a little bit about this at times, maybe off screen and stuff like that. But there's a sense in baseball where I think rhythm matters maybe more in the sport of baseball, to where having that bye week is the bye, however many days, the first round bye does hurt you. I'll start with you, Will, here. Do you think the college football has a bye week problem, or is this just a sense of it just kind of fell this way? Or, I mean, obviously we need more data points and more years to show, but what are your thoughts? Because every single first round team or first round bye team went down in the first round, their first game.
Yeah, because there's too many teams in the playoff. That's why.
Yes.
There shouldn't be any buys. Shouldn't be any buys. This is ridiculous. We're just letting mediocre teams in, and I mean, no mediocre teams have won, but letting mediocre teams in is never good. It's diluted the product. Every game except really for this one and the one yesterday, the Peach Bowl yesterday, have been boring. The Fiesta Bowl was boring. All the first round games were boring. It's a diluted product. Congratulations, ESPN. You made a lot of money on a mediocre product.
Yeah, I was listening to the Fiesta Bowl on my way back from Houston, and I was like, I mean, I'm not even really mad I'm missing this. Like, it just kind of feels like, okay, whatever. Now, the next round I think will be good because you have 4 very good football teams that are going to play in the national championship. I don't think is going to be bad necessarily, but I think it'll be good. Nancy says ASU was supposedly mediocre, but they played a hell of a game, and that's why Will said, the Peach Bowl and then the Sugar Bowl were kind of the 2 marquee games. Outside of that, and I'll say this, the one that was supposed to be really good, Ohio State, Oregon, was an absolute just blowout. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Ralph, do you think they have a bye week issue, or do you agree with Will? Too many teams in the playoff, which has led to this.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Will. I mean, these teams are still very good teams. Football really, you help to having rest. I mean, you get more time to rest everybody up, then go home for the holidays for maybe a few days and come back if they live close enough, and some of these guys benefit from that kind of stuff. So, I don't think the rest is a bad thing. That's just that you got them off on a think about back when before in BCS time you went a whole month and a half almost without even
Yeah.
playing, and you had to show up on game day. That was all you had. There was no playoff game. There was no semifinals. It was just straight up. You're playing that championship on second week of January, and that's when you play. You played your last week in first week of December, and after that you got a month until you play again.
Yeah.
I don't think the rest is a big deal. I kind of agree with there's too many teams. You're making teams wait. It's kind of stupid in my opinion.
I do agree there's too many teams. Expanded playoff, it only increases the opportunity. It doesn't increase the competition level of what we have going on. We've seen that, right? The bye week, though, per se, I'll take it a different way because rest does have to mean something. But then also, I mean, do you guys think that there's anything to the fact of I just want to keep playing? And I know football's different, but if you're Ohio State, you went and you boat raced Tennessee, okay? And probably after that game, you were like, let's keep it rolling. Like, I don't want to bye week. I don't know. That to me kind of stands out because if you're playing good ball, then you want it. Now, in Georgia's case, that's not going to be an excuse because they had to break in a brand new quarterback, who'd only played the second half of the SEC championship game. But for a team like Oregon that rolled all year, had a hard fought win. I don't know. Hindsight's obviously 2020, but does rest matter more than just continuing a rhythm, and how much does rhythm really matter in football with it such a physical sport?
Yeah, I mean, playing, you certainly can get momentum. And that's really what we saw. Every team that played in the first round won in the quarterfinal, and I think it has a lot to do with because they pretty much blew out whoever they played in the first round, with the exception of Texas. So it's they've got momentum, but I think the rest is important.
Yeah.
But it's a moot point now because every team that had rest is out. So there's no data point for it.
It'll be interesting to see kind of what it goes through. Like, Ralph, when we look at this, like, what does next year look like? Does next year, is it split 2-2? Is it next year, do all the teams that have the bye, end up winning? And maybe it's an individual case-by-case basis of who wants to utilize it. I do think for a program team like Ohio State, a bye would have made them think a little bit more. Where they went to go play Tennessee, they were feeling good about it, and it kind of reignited the confidence after the way their regular season ended. So that it might be a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, well, for one, Ohio State, the thing about Ohio State right now is this is the team we thought they were.
Yeah.
Truly. This is who we thought they could be this year. This high potent offense with a powerful run game and very good quarterback play by Will Howard. And we hadn't seen that really most of the year, especially against Michigan. And I mean, you could say, they had it against Oregon the first time, but still, it wasn't like it was so high powered they won the game outright.
Mm-hmm.
But you saw it on last night that they just showed up way better than the other team did. I mean, they truly hit him in the mouth first 2 drives. Jeremiah Smith's the best receiver in the country. You can't say that he's not. Dude's a freak. He could play on Sunday tomorrow if you wanted to. I mean, he truly is a natural born receiver who's going to be a great player for the next 10, 12 years. I feel like Ohio State's offensive line played great. You saw what they did for 4 quarters against Oregon's defense. They didn't need rest.
Yeah.
I still think some of these teams, I think Arizona State probably had the most fight. They just had a lot more, to play for themselves, not just, for the playoff, but to prove themselves that they deserve to be there. And they did.
Yeah.
I thought they showed up for a great game. And I know that fourth quarter was wild toward the 2 missed field goals by Texas, but I mean, Will was in the building. He could see everything that was going on. Cam Scatterbo was an absolute beast.
Yeah. They ranked first in the country in expected dog per play.
Agreed.
I like that. Maybe we make that a Crowded Booth stat next year, the expected dog per play. The Jelly Pumpkin says the NFL has had buys. First off, amazing username. The NFL has had buys for years, and it hasn't mattered. In football, rest is king. I do agree with that. Baseball is so much different than because it's all rhythm and routine. The only caveat to push is specifically Ohio State. With the way their season ended, the opportunity to come back and play, but they did get a bye because they didn't play in the conference title game. So, it's interesting. And the last piece to this puzzle is there was a big conversation coming into this of what would be valued more, the opportunity to play a home playoff game or the bye. And overwhelmingly, you saw college football media say the bye. Well, every team that hosted that home playoff game won and then beat the team with the bye. So once again, it's just one data point, and we're going to have more to go off of. But I thought that was something interesting because that's a conversation too that you're not going to know until you get 5, 6, 7, 8 years into this thing, probably.
That 6 seed right now is going to be the future of everyone wants to play for.
You think? I think the 5 seed.
Well, 5 seed you got to play. You
got to play the number 1 seed if you're the 5 seed.
Yeah, you got to play
the seed.
Yeah. But I'm saying, if you're the the 6 seed, you're playing the number 3 team, and you play either 2, 7, or 10. So you have a better chance in that situation. If this is going to be the same thing year in year out, where the team with the bye gets loses, you'd rather be that 6 seed because you're going to play the 3 seed. You'll beat them on the bye, and you're probably going to play the 7 seed, who you have a better chance against, probably. Not in this year's case. I don't think SMU would have beat Notre Dame. But
yeah, that's fair. Will, were you going to say something? I thought you were looking something up.
No, I was just curious how many NFL wild cards have gone on to win the Super Bowl, and it is 6, if I'm counting right. So you had the Bucs in 2020, Giants in 2007, Steelers in the 2000s, the Ravens. So it's not many. I mean, think about all the Super Bowls. It's
more than I thought, though. Honestly.
Yeah,
the Broncos in 97.
2020 Buccaneers, they were a wild card team.
They were a wild card.
Who won the South that year? Saints.
Would have been the Saints.
No, won the Falcons.
That was Tom Brady and them. So I mean, of course they were going to win. Dude.
Mumbling about the NFL. That's what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know what we're doing here.
Sorry, this is not the NFL draft podcast again.
No, that was a wild time. Catch us in April. Want to kind of go back here because this is a good question, and I think it's also an interesting angle because this guy is not a Georgia Tech fan. Ken Hendrick says, not sour grapes here, but I feel like every big game I've watched this year, not just Georgia, has had some major officiating problems. How does college football fix this? It's a serious problem of inconsistency and makes every game a coin toss. Yes, terrible problem.
Step 1.
Fire all the refs.
Conferences do not hire referees.
Boom.
The NCAA. But
you can still have tiers. Who gets to work what game, like the NBA does.
Yep. There needs to be no conference affiliation with referees.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I think because I think it showed a lot this year, to Ken's point. There's a lot of bias in the penalties called. A lot of bias.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Ralph. Fire them all. Brian Jones says this should be full-time job.
Hey, NFL refs, that is not a full-time job either.
Yeah, it's not. But it wouldn't hurt.
What do you need Rob Barefield in there?
We do. We're not live on Facebook anymore, so he can't watch. No, I think that there is a major officiating problem. And I know, like, obviously we have a lot of Georgia Tech fans that watch the show, and it's been very prevalent in the last 2 Tech games. Obviously, clean old-fashioned hate, the game against Vanderbilt. And it's a problem. It's bad. And I think, like Will said, I am totally on board with having – I'm totally on board with having – You didn't know that?
We know.
Oh, okay.
We know it's Jonesy.
But
yeah, he didn't know that. That's okay.
But he don't know anybody, so
or nobody. But in all seriousness, when you look at this officiating thing, it's obviously a problem. And when you take a step back there's so much gray area. It feels like everything is up to the discretion of said referee. And I think that's why a lot of people want some type of standardized, maybe even a unionized group where you have, look, here are the referees of the NCAA. Okay. And if you grade out really well, you get the marquee Saturday night games. If you don't, then no offense, you're on Eastern Michigan, Toledo on Tuesday night. Like, that's how you do that. I would be a fan of that.
Let's be honest here.
That makes too much sense, I guess.
That you should be celebrating that. That's primetime football.
Well, yes, but I do think that it should be handled like that because who does a good job of this is the NBA.
Yeah,
I think the NBA does a very good job of officiating in terms of the idea of what they do. Now the implementation of it is different, but the idea that your highest graded people, and look, Major League Baseball does this too with their umpires. The idea of it should be that whether you're graded by the coaches, you're graded by the players, and it's not just on the field calls, it's the interaction. How do they deal with it? How do they explain calls to you? Everything should go into this to where when you get to what we're going to have in a month when we have the national title game, that should be, regardless if the game is officiated well because things are going to happen, it should be, at least you can say is, you know what, they graded out the best. Because right now there's nothing, it's all type of, it's all up to the discretion of what happens, and I hate that. Ken Hendricks also says, every time I hear someone break down a game, he comes out, the refs are going to screw you over, you have to overcome them. We're taking billions of dollars that we're letting part-time crappy refs massively affect. Also, with betting being more prevalent than it ever has been in college sports, I think that you got to get this under control. Is that crazy? Because I'm not deep into the gambling thing, but is that crazy? Yeah, that would be crazy. Angel Hernandez coming out of retirement to be a ref.
Only crazy because, blaming the refs for losing the game is weak. You have 60 minutes. One or two plays is not going to determine the outcome of the game. Now, yes, later in the game, the same call means more than it does early on in the game. Yeah. And you want the calls to be right 100% of the time, but that's just not going to happen.
The one game where I think a missed call changed the whole entire format of a playoff or anything is that missed PI when Saints and Rams.
Yep.
That's the only one I think where that a missed field or missed flag actually caused issues for a game going into the Super Bowl and everything, because that was just that's probably the worst call I think I've seen on TV.
Yeah.
Besides the infield flight rule.
Well, and I even say this to what you just said, Ralph, and it's just playing devil's advocate. Even then, you could have made other plays not be put in that situation.
Agreed.
I'm never going to say that one play costs a game. Can it change the momentum? Of course it can. But like if you're up 17-0 and you end up losing that game, it didn't all just happen because the referees made 3 or 4 calls. I don't know. It is crazy. And Ken Hendricks says, I don't care about the single missed call. It's the inconsistency that kills me. Oh, I wholeheartedly agree.
Did the referees cost Georgia the game today?
No. The inconsistency of targeting is, I've said it so many times. It is terrible. And what targeting is. Nobody knows what it is. The PI, to be honest with you, the PI call that happened towards the end of the game, we need to get and talk to the games. That's PI.
We debate the targeting call yesterday? The non-call?
Let's do it when we get to the game. That's good. Let's talk about that when we get to the game. I like that. Yeah, Jonesy with a wild. Well, we're not going to put that up, but yeah, that's good stuff. All right, let's talk about the first game, Ralph. You can throw it up there. The one that just happened here on January the 2nd, down in New Orleans. Notre Dame stifles Georgia, guys. Look, pat on the back. I picked Notre Dame to win this one. I thought they'd be a little more. I thought they'd bring their A game, and they did. And look, my kind of take on this is that Riley Leonard's a baller. And it's not the sexiest thing in the world, but they are finding a way to win. They're playing really, really good football, and they're doing a really good job of week in, week out of being as consistent as they possibly can. And at this time of the year, being consistent matters. And I feel like that's what Notre Dame's done a good job of. Like I said, it's not sexy. Riley Leonard didn't eclipse 100 yards passing until late in the fourth quarter, but he was able to run the ball. He was able to do some different things. They did a really good job, I think, of just controlling the game. That Notre Dame defense is very fast, very physical. So I do really like when you come into the scope of the game. I like the way Notre Dame played the football game. And I think our good friend and Dev said that it was probably one of the worst matchups for Georgia when you looked at who they could match up against. I think that Ohio State's going to present problems, but I think Ohio State presents problems for everybody. Notre Dame's physical. They matched it with Georgia, and man, they took it to them. So hats off to Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman with some big cojones to take some of the calls that he did and gamble. But look, to beat one of the best teams in the country, that's what you have to do. That's how you got to play. So I like it. I like the way Notre Dame played in this football game. So, Will, your thoughts?
Well, there was the middle eight is what won Notre Dame this football game. There's no doubt. And really, you could say the middle two, the last minute of the first half.
It was like 20 points in a minute and a half or 17 or something crazy.
Yeah. So I'm going to say the middle two. That swung the game.
Yeah.
But the big key was Georgia had no running game whatsoever.
None.
Notre Dame held Georgia to just 62 rushing yards, and 2 of 12 on third downs. That was the difference in the game. And I think Gunnar Stockton looked really, really good. There's already been some talk that he's not that good. First career start in a playoff game, 20 of 32, 234 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. That's pretty good.
Very good.
3 fumbles for Georgia. They lost 2 of them. You'll have to remind me who fumbled those. I can't remember.
Stockton fumbled 2.
ATM fumbled 1.
Yeah.
Well, one of Stockton's was on a sack.
Yeah. That's not really his fault.
I mean, it is a fumble, but I don't know if I'm gonna get on him too much on ball security, especially given the situation. But it was about what I expected, but from the opposite team. I did not expect Notre Dame's defense to come out and play like they did. You see that a lot of times with a quarterback that you don't have film on. They go out and have a good game. Stockton had a good game. Georgia just could not get it going, couldn't get the ball in the end zone. And it starts on the ground. You to run the ball effectively and great job. Am I here? Am I good? Notre Dame did a great job.
Keep going. You're
great
good
job
now.
keeping Georgia.
No, Ken says this. He goes, UJ's left tackle was getting absolutely annihilated. Yeah, put a name on it, Ralph. What was his name?
It's Monroe Freeling, isn't it?
Yeah, he was getting worked. And Notre Dame's front seven is good. So it wasn't like it was just he was getting absolutely worked. And I think that when you look at this Georgia offensive line, to what you said, Will, Trevor or Etienne is a good back. Like he's a really good back. A lot of what he's had to do this year, you go back to that Texas game, he had to do by himself because Georgia's offensive line has not been up to par with what we've seen last year, 2 years ago. They just haven't been that. They've had some injuries, but overall, just when you go back and look at the recruiting, what they were able to get out of the high school ranks, those guys haven't developed. So they struggle in that category. You put in a true freshman quarterback for his first ever start. Like I said, I thought Stockton played very well. Your receivers aren't reliable in catching the football. And 2, and I know, Will, you don't like Greg McElroy, but McElroy did bring up a really good point here when he did say one of the biggest things that Kirby Smart said was they were nervous and kind of concerned about how Stockton could control the offensive line in terms of making checks. Because that's something that you can practice so much, but in the game atmosphere, when something's thrown in your way, especially with what I think Will Mannis would be as a defensive coordinator, Al Golden for Notre Dame. When you look at that, Al Golden was throwing the kitchen sink at that kid at times, and so his inability to not be able to check and do some things. They don't really have elite skill talent on the outside, and Notre Dame's a really good football team. And so those are kind of some of the things that kind of stood out to me. Was like you said, Will, they couldn't run the ball, and we'll see what happens next year with Georgia. They've got some young guys that I think can be really, really good in a good recruiting class. They got to get better up front, especially with Stockton most likely being the guy that's going to start next year. So, Ralph?
Sorry, I was trying to look this up quick. I was trying to see who else would have played left tackle for Georgia, but I don't know. That right there to me is one of the worst performances I've seen of a left tackle who's supposed to be an elite one.
Yeah.
I thought Gunnar Stockton played a great game. I know the 2 fumbles are, hard to look over, but one is just because your left tackle just missed a block completely. It's one of those weak blocks I've ever seen. You might as well just let him go and hit your quarterback for free. I mean, honestly, you should have stood still and let him run around you because it was that bad. I'll tell you one thing. Nate Frazier getting 4 carries is insane. And those 4 carries came on one drive, I'm pretty sure. 4 carries for 37 yards. Most production you had running the ball the entire game was him. Trevor Etienne put the ball on the ground. I don't think he, was running, he was bouncing around.
Let me make a note about Nate Frazier. One carry went for 28 yards. So he busted a long run, but Notre Dame just shut down the run game.
Either way, 4 carries, he needs to have more. I think he's a better back than Etienne. He's better back than Etienne. Etienne takes the ball, snaps.
I don't think he's a better back than Etienne. I think that Georgia's offensive line is terrible.
An actual running back. Now, Etienne's a great all-purpose back. He's a great receiving back. I don't think he's a better running back, though. If Frazier takes the ball and goes north-south, Etienne takes the ball and goes east-west.
That's fair. Frazier does get north and south.
If I want to run it, get first down, I'm putting Nate Frazier back there. That's just that's just how I see it when I watch him play. I don't watch all Georgia's games, but when I see him play, that's usually who goes upfield for me. I thought defense played as best they could.
Georgia's defense?
As best as they could.
Oh,
I mean, that's a hard team to play. Riley Leonard's a hard quarterback style.
They're efficient.
Yeah. I mean, they do a lot of motion, a lot of RPO, and it works for Riley Leonard. It's a good offense for him to be in. They get a great offensive line, man. Georgia gave him a fight for as much as they could. But they can block with the best of them. I mean, they really can. That's a great offensive line, and only giving up 1 sack today. I mean, I'm impressed. Georgia's defensive line is pretty elite when it comes to pass rush, usually in the past. But Michael Williams being kind of banged up, he got hurt in the middle of the game, didn't really, do much after that. Small Monday didn't really have a great game, and but stopping Jalen Walker and all those guys, dude, stopping those guys, they're coming after you. And props for Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman, dude. I'll tell you one thing. When he took the job, I thought a lot of people kind of questioned it at first. Was he ready to take the job?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's taken him a little while to get going, but he's finally shown that he can get it done. So,
you go back to Georgia's defense. I mean, they gave up less than 20 points. The kick return for the touchdowns really was the massive difference maker in this game, I feel like. And then obviously what Will said is that kind of mid-game surge, 2 minutes, where the game just kind of completely.
They gave up 1 touchdown.
Yeah, they did. And
that's not even their fault because it was a fumble. They got the ball on the 10-yard line. So I mean, I can't really say Georgia's defense played bad because they truly did play a great game. 2 bad plays and put them up down 14 points.
And I'll tell you this too, with Riley Leonard, a lot of people laughed at when there were some takes going around in the offseason or in the preseason. Notre Dame hired Mike Denbrock, who was down here, and Coach Jaden Daniels, and you saw a lot of the utilization of an RPO play. I mean, I saw it 5 million times where they'd fake the ball. You'd have the read with the running back, and you'd have Mason Taylor kind of come out of the flat. Notre Dame runs that constantly, where they literally, like you said, Ralph, they motion the tight end out or wing back or receiver, whatever they want to do. They motion that out, and it creates – you have to make a decision. And making a decision for a college football player – and with the RPO style defense, it's really either or. And Riley Leonard has a pretty good command of that. And so I was impressed with that. I really was impressed with the way that they played. And then, we had a comment up here. Albert Scott says they got beat up front. You kind of started to see Notre Dame lean on Georgia a little bit too at times, especially in that drive that they didn't end up scoring, but they knocked a lot of time off the clock. So the Irish advance makes for a very fun matchup with the game we're going to talk about here next. So let's move on. Notre Dame beats Georgia. What was that final score again? 23-13? 23-10, I apologize. 23-10.
Do we want to since we're in the middle of this, and I got to do what I always do, timestamp it, 30 minutes and 2 seconds. I got 3 things.
All right, go ahead.
Or I guess it's 2.
Take the banner off. Let him have his moment.
Drake Bowen should be an Auburn Tiger. If it weren't for Mr. Potato Head, he'd be an Auburn Tiger. Number 2, little history about me. I looked at the comments.
Yeah, that's bad.
Uh,
Bad as
2008, Tommy Tuberville leaves Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Top of my list was this man, Al Golden. Sole reason, that tie he's got on, wearing a tie on the sidelines. I wanted Auburn to hire Al Golden, nothing to do with football, just because he wore a tie on the sideline. So I've been a crotchety old man my whole life.
Sources can confirm. I hope that gets clipped. I've been a crotchety old man my whole life. Please somebody clip that. Well, there you go. That's all Will's Auburn segment brought to you by Wickles Pickles. We appreciate them for being the presenting sponsor of Auburn and Will. Austin Bailey says, "Hey Ralph, can you please read this aloud?" Ralph, would you like to read that out loud?
No.
Okay. I wouldn't mind if you. I'm okay if you want to. It's not FCC regulated. Okay, so Will knew about Aura before Aura. That's true. Will's also a fan. Will, you did have Mr. Bowden down there in Auburn who liked to wear the tie.
He did. Old Tater Tot.
Oh God.
The last Auburn head coach to develop some quarterbacks. All right, onward.
Speaking of quarterbacks, two fun ones that played in this game is in the Peach Bowl. We take a look at the team Arizona State and Texas. Guys, this was a fun one. Texas escapes Arizona State. Will, I want to shift it over to you, man, because I watched this. I had an eye on it. We were over at some friend's house. Give me the lowdown. You were in the building. What was it like? How many fans of each team were there? Just in general, kind of your thoughts on this game.
I'm looking for the stats. Where are they?
Well, you know the stats don't tell the whole story.
I'm blind. Arizona State fans were loud. They traveled well. They showed up. They were fun to watch, cheer on their team. Texas fans are about what you would expect. Just kind of their attitude. I mean, obviously they're playing Arizona State. They're in the SEC. They're in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This is the playoff. So everybody thinks Texas is just going to roll in this game, right? I think that was the general consensus. And it looked like that for much of the game. But Arizona State, like they've done all year, didn't go anywhere. They didn't blink. They didn't waver. Maybe some desperation at times, especially in that third quarter with some of the play calls. We saw a fake punt. We saw Cam Scatterbo throw a touchdown pass on fourth down. Season on the line. And you run a halfback pass and you get a touchdown out of it. So, I mean, but that's been Arizona State all year. They were a fun team to watch. I hope that Kenny Dillingham can reload and have a team as fun as this one and win enough games so they're worth watching. But it was a ton of fun, that game.
Yes, it was. Big student body at Arizona State, and they like to have a good time. Lawson says that comeback was awesome. Austin said, I wanted to leave early, then ASU really turned on ESPN Instant Classic. Matt says that he was surprised.
Austin was ready to go. He said that it was, 17 to – what? It would be 17 to 5. He was like, that's it. We can leave. Like, I wouldn't go yet.
Wait, at one point the score was 17 to 5?
Yes.
Yeah, it had safety.
They got a safety before the field goal.
When I looked at this game, let's just kind of diagnose what we need to talk about here. Arizona State and the targeting call, or the no targeting call, I should say. Gene Steratore, who is one of the former, obviously, NFL referee, tweeted out today that this is by the book, textbook type of call. It completely exemplifies everything that the rule states. If for some reason you don't know what we're talking about, Ralph, I'm trying to find the clip. If you can find it on Twitter and bring it over, that'd be awesome. Look, kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with officiating. This is something where now the Big 12 commissioner has stepped in, and you talk about, Will, I know we said one play doesn't make the difference, but This definitely stopped a potential. This stopped a potential game-winning drive.
Yeah, but to me, it's not. This
Talking about
is
the Jordan
lose
Taft
because
tackle?
of it, but you didn't. Does this make sense? You didn't lose because of this, but it could have been one of the reasons you didn't win.
Talking about the
That,
Jordan
Yeah.
Taft tackle, right?
what'd you say?
The Jordan Taft one. right in
just
the
look
middle.
up Gene's territory. He had the video.
Well, I got one right here that's close up to it.
That it shows everything that's wrong with the rule because that's a football play. I mean, there's nothing the defender can do. So we watch the play. It's a bang bang play. To me, there's nothing the DB can do.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So here's the two things on this, right? And for any Texas or Arizona State fan that comes across this video, this is really conversation is going to be about the penalty. It's twofold for me, Will. By rule of what the letter of the law is this targeting? Yes. I hate the rule.
It's
I hate the
forcible
rule.
contact to the head or neck area.
Yeah, I hate the rule because I do agree with you. I don't know what you're supposed to do here because if this guy keeps his balance, he could keep running for 5, maybe 10 more yards. You don't know. And people can't just say, well, he would have fallen down. That's what I'm saying with this. I don't like the rule. Does this look egregious? Does this look dirty? No. If it was, then let's throw in unnecessary roughness penalty. Let's throw out the targeting call. I hate it. It's stupid. But by the letter of the law of what the rule reads, that should have been called. It's my own. It's a different thing for me to say I don't agree with it. So that's kind of where I sit with it. Lawson or using slow-mo to judge a full speed play is ridiculous. That's also true. You can't. Ralph, hit that link that I put in our chat because that's the broadcast viewpoint, and it gives you a little bit more. I guess view. It gives you a little more because you got to remember this too. You're not calling it in slow motion, right? Like that's also something too. You can't really see that. But I will say, Lawson, to a certain point, is that when you go back and look at a review, you do get the slow motion angle. So that's where you could have made the call. So I don't know. Let's here we go. I'm sorry, Ralph. Like right there, I mean, godly, that doesn't even look bad.
Well, I mean, because
that doesn't even look bad.
The name of the rule is stupid. Targeting. That is not targeting. Targeting is like a conscious effort to cause harm to a defenseless player.
He's not defenseless. What if he gets his turns around and he's got 5 more yards? He could get the first down. How else is this?
I don't think there's any malicious intent. That's just he's just trying to make a play. Because it's 3rd and 15. It's the playoffs. It's a tie game. 1:13 to go. That's just football.
Ralph, what you think in real time?
I mean, in my opinion, if they call it targeting, it is what it is. If they don't, it is what it is. I'm 50-50 on the call. I don't think it's targeting, but I see what they're saying in slow motion view. Yeah, you can call it if you want to. I don't think it is, but I understand why they didn't call it, and I'm okay they didn't call it. But you were saying earlier, it really changes the game if they do call it targeting, and if they didn't call it targeting, like it did, it slowed down momentum for Arizona State. But either way, if we're gonna have targeting, like if this is gonna be called that, we need to have a breakdown with all the coaches and referees and everyone who runs the NCAA. Sit down, go over a class of what targeting is going to be next year, because there has been
just make the referees available to the media. How about we do that?
That'd be awful. that would be awful.
But I mean, it would provide some responsibility and accountability to where they have to answer.
Every game needs to have a head ref that sits up in the box, makes all the calls. If there's a flag on the play, if there's a review needs to be up there, and they can answer to the media at the end of the day. You don't have to have all the referees. Just have one guy who is not on the field. He's in the box. He's like, okay, look, when this play happened right here, this is what we saw. This is what we broke down. This is how we broke it down here. and all that. Like that needs to be done. I think should have been a thing a long time ago. Have a central guy who sits in the boxes, does not do anything on the field. But
I think the only question we need to ask is, does that hit incite violence?
Well, you incite violence yourself, so I don't even know why. I mean, I don't even know if you're allowed to speak in that, you know?
I don't know.
Ralph, I'm going to put this one in here because Gavin wanted this one. This is the one that was a no call. Now, this is more egregious. This is an actual far more egregious. Now, I'm not saying that I don't. All right, I'm real here. I'm not saying I don't like it. I do, because I'm all for when that Florida defensive back came over in the 2004 national title game or 03 title game, and I mean, that's unnecessary. There's no reason for him to go do that. He could go try to make a play on the ball.
What he just said though was, "I'm not trying to make a play on the ball. I'm trying to make a play through you."
Yeah,
because that's exactly what the guy from Florida said.
He hit. Is it square to play receiver? He didn't hit triangle to play the ball. He hit square X, whichever it is,
just
to
dove.
play the receiver.
He hit stick that thing. That's all he did. He just used the right analog that said, "I'm going to take this guy's head off." No, but see, I mean, look, this is the thing. Nobody's talking about this, right? They just want to talk about the other call. Well, that could have changed some things. What if Texas keeps driving? You don't ever know. And that's why one play doesn't determine everything. So, good stuff. Texas does escape Arizona State. Longhorn's going to be interesting kind of going forward because I don't really know. I don't know what to think about them going forward. It's like they can play really, really well. They also, I mean, I don't think they're in the same. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens next round.
Well, Steve Sarkisian, as we all saw firsthand more than once, so got a whole season of it. He gets inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium and something happens to him. It's like he forgets how to call plays. I mean,
yeah,
something's up with him. And also another call, which just was interesting, the blocked field goal that Texas blocked a field goal in the first, I think the first quarter. Now, this is from a tweet. I don't know the rule well enough, but there was an argument being made that because nobody touched the ball and the ball didn't die on the field, the ball bounced off the ground and through the uprights. And someone was interpreting the rule saying that it should have been a made field goal. Like,
wait, so it wasn't
it
wasn't a blocked field goal? It was just like he just missed it, and
no, Texas blocked it, and it bounced in the end zone and bounced off the ground through the uprights. But because it didn't come laying to rest in the field of play or roll out of bounds, or nobody downed the ball, it should have been counted as a made field goal.
Let me
see if I can find it.
I've never thought about it like that.
Me neither.
Because I would say like once it goes in the end zone, is it dead?
Or apparently not. Now this is from Joe Schmo, nobody.
In his mama's basement.
Yeah. See if I can find it.
Apologies to Ralph.
It's to close out the first half.
If the ball re-enters the field of play after crossing the
go.
vertical plane of the goal, then the score also counts. Lawson says.
So somebody Googled it.
Source. Lawson understands.
Hey, at least he shows his sources. I appreciate it.
Primary or secondary, he's got them.
Somebody Googled it, and this is the Google AI answer. Yes, if a field goal bounces off the turf and goes through the uprights, it is considered a successful field goal and counts as points on the scoreboard. The ball only needs to pass through the goalpost to be considered a successful kick, regardless of whether it bounces on the ground first.
That's interesting.
Honestly, but I did see somebody took a screenshot of the actual rule.
Well, we'll move on to the next game if you find it.
It's irrelevant because it didn't count and the game's over.
That's interesting, though. Shout out to Lawson. Lawson knows that we need sources. Now, next time, Lawson, I can annotate a bibliography of why you chose that, but that's okay.
Excited and everything, please.
Yes, please. MLA format. All right, next game on the docket. Let's go Ohio State, Oregon. Not really a lot to talk about this one. On the fact that Ohio State's very, very good, and they're peaking at the right time. Ralph, you said it earlier. I'll let you start here. Ohio State's a very good football team. It's the best team that money could buy. We knew that. We thought we knew that in the preseason. They kind of sputtered, but I'll tell you one thing. Will Howard's confident. He feels comfortable. That offensive line that we thought would be a liability, not really much of one. And if you give him time, they've got an elite receiving core led by Jeremiah Smith. And the defense is pretty good too.
Yeah. Will Howard obviously has been elite the last 2 games. 5 touchdowns, like 500-something yards passing. He's looked great. This team is exactly who we thought they were at the beginning of the year. They've had some weeks where they just did not show up on both sides of the ball. I thought defense kind of sputtered in some games. And the offense just really has been lackluster, and they just waited till the end of the year to really show out. Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins had great games. I mean, Travion Henderson, 8 carries, 94 yards with a 66-yard sprint to the end zone. Jeremiah Smith made every Oregon defender look like a middle school football player playing against the NFL. Truthfully. No one could cover him. No corner could match with them. No safety could stop him. It was unfair. And Will Howard was putting every ball in where he could catch it. So props to Ohio State. Great game. You played them on a neutral site, and you proved that you're a better team. So I was wrong. I'll say it. I was wrong. Hand up, bro. Hand up. I said they dog walk you off the field when they played Tennessee. I was wrong. I chose Oregon over Ohio State. I was wrong. But do you blame me? The coach puts too much hair dye in there. Can't trust him.
Gavin says Chip Kelly was elite. Some really good play calling and some big-time busted coverages by Oregon. Will, your thoughts on this one? Any remaining thoughts?
Jeremiah Smith he should be the number 1 pick this year.
Yep.
Can you draft a player and hold their draft rights even though they're not eligible to join the league?
I'm sure some teams asking this year.
Because he's the best player in college football. That nobody's talked about, especially. Yeah, I mean, I think y'all both said it. We could not have been more wrong about Ohio State. Something clicked for them after losing to Michigan. Something definitely clicked. Because they look like the team that we thought they would be, just like y'all mentioned. And this was again shutting down the run. Oregon ran for negative 23 yards, which is honestly impressive. To have negative 23. No turnovers in this game, which is weird. So it was just a domination.
Yeah. I like it. Not too much to say. Ohio State's really good. I think when we see the new betting odds come out, maybe they already have for Bet Online, I think that it'd be hard to press not to see them be the betting odds favorite to win the whole thing at this point with the way they're playing. All right, last game on the docket, and then we're going to get out of here and let you enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. Penn State beats Boise State.
We are.
I'm going to say this just real quick, and then I'll let you guys take it. I don't want to beat up on the G5. I don't want to do that. I think it's cool. I think Ashton Genty's cool. I think Ashton Genty is fun.
Ashton Genty's the stud.
Ralph, look at me, buddy. Come back into the picture. You can do it, Ralph. You want to take it personal.
What? It's not personal. Trust me.
There's a reason why this happened. Penn State's good. I'm not going to take anything away from them. But Penn State has waves. Now, do the top P4 teams, will they always have the waves of talent in depth that they always have? No, because the portal's here and it's going to take your second team guy away. But that's the thing that the G5 doesn't have. And they just don't have that. And that's not a knock. It just is what it is. I know you guys have been very happy or very high on, especially Ralph has talked, some good things about Greg Maddox's son that plays quarterback for Boise State.
It's not Greg Maddox.
I don't know his name.
That is fake news.
Maddox Madsen.
Maddox
named after Greg Maddox.
Madison Maddox.
He had a really good game.
threw the 3 picks, but the last two were kind of desperate.
Two of those they were trying to throw back into the game.
So you understand the context of that. It just is. Look, Penn State's really good, and I'm going to say this: Penn State Notre Dame is going to be a very fun game to watch. It's going to be old school. I'm pretty sure Will's going to get, kids cover your ears, a little aroused by the game that happens in Miami and Busch Gardens or wherever. Not Busch Gardens.
Hey, Al Golden back in his old stomping grounds.
There's going to be a guy wearing a tie, and there's going to be old school football. Stay away from Will. No blue pill needed for Will that night. So, in all seriousness, Penn State's really good. I don't think this has anything to say that Boise State didn't belong there. This is just kind of the reality. And when we talked about this in the preseason, like the idea to get for a G5 team to beat, they got the bye, but if they don't get the bye, they've got to beat 4 P4 teams. In this case, they had to beat 3 of them to win a title game. That's just a lot to ask. And I'm not taking anything with Boise State. Great historic season. They had the Heisman runner-up. Ralph obviously believes he should have been the Heisman winner. That's a different conversation for a different day.
People's Heisman.
But this wasn't a massive surprise. I mean, Penn State wants to drag you down into a dogfight, and that was Boise State's best option to win the game. They couldn't do it. So that's all I got to say on this one. Whoever wants to go first.
I mean, Boise, they really made it tough on Penn State. You look into the numbers, Boise 5.5 yards per play, 13 yards per completion. So they were able to do some things against Penn State, but they couldn't run the ball, which is their bread and butter. But, to me, that has no bearing on Ashton Jeanty. No change, in my opinion, because if you watch the game and watch how he's running, he's getting hit every single play at or behind the line of scrimmage, and guys are just bouncing off of him. Ashton Jeanty is a stud. He is every bit a top 10 pick in the upcoming draft. Still got 100 yards. Took him 30 carries though, but it's not a big surprise. Like I said before the game, I think this was going to be the best front seven that Boise's seen all year, and I still believe that. And God, of course, blanking on the name. Hold on, what's his name?
Abdul Carter barely played.
Abdul Carter. If I had the number 1 pick, I would be debating between Ashton Jeanty and Abdul Carter. Words
Ashton
are hard.
Daniels.
Don't get me started. But to me, those are the 2 best players in the draft, and they were on the field at the same time.
Ralph, what did I tell you today? If someone takes Ashton Jeanty in the first round, then they're on crack.
Mm-hmm.
He'll probably get taken in the first round.
Oh yeah.
The Cowboys are
top 20 pick.
The Cowboys are taking him in the top 10.
Yeah, that's an unserious franchise because that's all they need. They just need a running back, and they're good. They're good to go.
Hey, if a quarterback stays healthy.
Yeah, Cooper Rush is a very viable backup.
And their head coach,
their owners are senile. So
should I finish my statement?
Sure.
As long as you don't put up the latest comment, I'm good with it. Yeah.
There you go. Go ahead and say it.
If their head coach was stay out of the buffet line.
Okay.
Maxwell. I'm going to be honest.
He probably will.
I hope he does for some of the franchise.
He'll play him at tight end. It's Kyle Pitts
from the USFL.
Absolutely. Mike Allstott is the greatest player in NFL history.
Will, can you stream a Mike Allstott Road to Glory, please?
You can't play as a fullback.
He wouldn't stay.
I'll give you a Heath Evans. Let's just circle it back. Slide to the barn. I'll do a Heath Evans.
All right. Ralph, any thoughts on Penn State before we end the show? And just please God get out of here.
Yeah. I know what you said is true. This was going to happen. We all knew it was going to happen. But before that Nick Singleton, long touchdown run to really kind of put the game out of reach. Besides the first 2 drives in the first quarter for Penn State, it was really all Penn State the first quarter. The second, the third quarter, it really wasn't a blowout. It wasn't really a lopsided game. Boise State gave them their all. It truly did. And I'll tell you one thing. Shout out to Spencer Danielson, man. What a great coach. If I had a choice if I'm a Power 4 school and could hire Spencer Danielson, I would. That's the right Boise State coach to hire.
There might be a Power 4 coach who's a fan, who one of the members of this show is a fan of, that might be looking for a head coach.
Oh.
Will, would you like Spencer Danielson to be the next head coach of the Auburn Tigers?
Yes, I would.
Oh, God.
But either way, I thought, Boise played better than I thought they would, honestly. Defensively, at least. They made some great plays. It's hard to stop Tyler Warren, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, and Drew Aller. It truly is hard to stop all of those guys. And then have Omari Evans, who's one of the faster players in college football, go over the top. So, props to Boise State. You gave it your all. You played better than I thought they would. And, yeah.
I think Penn State's play calling needs to be a little bit cleaner. I think that they really wasted some opportunities to really pull away in that game. So, there's that. Okay, well, you know what? We're gonna have. I'm gonna say this, and then Will, you can pull up what you pull up real quick. The betting lines for the next round of the playoffs. If you're interested in that, for our friends over at Bet Online, you can use code BELIEVE. That is BLEAV 50. You can match $50 to get your first deposit. Notre Dame is a 1.5-point favorite against Penn State. That game will be down, like I said, in Miami, and then Ohio State against Texas in Jerry's World, 6-point favorite. 6-point favorite. So early lines here about a week before the game. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight, and I guess we're going to let Will do what he wants to do.
I got something to take.
Oh, I know you got something. Here we go.
To take us out. Slide to the barn.
Why does that look like Jeff Collins?
Oh, Jesus.
That does not look like Jeff Collins.
The shoulders.
Grok on X is amazing.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We appreciate you. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and talk to us on all the social media platforms as well. And we'll be live once again on Monday. Monday, we're going to take a look at some transfer portal winners and losers. Who are some teams that are winning and losing right now in the portal? And then we'll obviously preview the games next week. Ralph Leary, Will Manis, my name's Bryce Koon. We'll catch you next time here on The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.